The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was never quiet. It was a massive room, shaped like a giant bowl. Rows of seats went up and up, reaching toward the high ceiling. 300 different species sat in those seats. Some looked like giant insects with hard shells. Some looked like flowing water held in glass suits. Others were covered in soft fur or sharp scales. The noise was terrible. It was a mix of clicks, growls, heavy breathing, and high-pitched beeps. The air smelled of ozone, damp earth, and strange chemicals. In the center of the room stood a small platform. It was the place for the speaker. Today, a human man stood there. His name was Paul Harris. He wore a simple gray suit. It was not shiny like the armor of the Krill warriors. It was not colorful like the robes of the high elves of Zentar. It was plain. Paul looked small in the middle of the huge room. He held a black briefcase in his left hand. He stood very still. Paul waited. He had been waiting for 20 minutes. The council members were talking to each other. They ignored him. This was normal. For 50 years, humanity had been a member of the council, and for 50 years, the council had treated humanity like servants. They did not respect Earth. They only liked what Earth could do for them. High Counselor Thakrak sat in the highest seat. He was a massive being. He looked like a praying mantis, but he was as big as a truck. His green skin was thick. He tapped his long claw on the metal desk. The sound echoed through the room. Slowly, the noise died down. The growls and beeps stopped. 300 pairs of eyes looked down at Paul Harris. "Human," the crack said. His voice sounded like dry leaves scraping together. "You requested this time. You have 5 minutes. Do not waste it. We have important matters to discuss regarding the trade routes." Paul adjusted his tie. He did not look up at the High Counselor immediately. He looked around the room. He saw the representative of the Vorn. The Vorn had asked for human soldiers to fight their war last year. 10,000 human men and women died on a frozen planet to save the Vorn. The Vorn representative did not even nod at Paul. He saw the representative of the Glicks. The Glicks bought human food for cheap prices and sold it for huge profits. Earth remained poor, while the Glicks got rich. Paul leaned forward toward the microphone. He did not shout. His voice was calm. It was the voice of a man who had thought about this for a very long time. "I do not need 5 minutes," Paul said. The room was silent. Usually, humans begged for more time. Usually, humans brought charts and graphs to show why they needed help. Paul had nothing. He just had his briefcase. For 50 years, humanity has tried to be a good neighbor. We signed your treaties. We fought your pirates. We built your space stations. We mined the asteroids that were too dangerous for your robots. We did all of this because we wanted to be part of this family. A few aliens laughed. It was a cruel sound. Paul did not react to the laughter. He kept his eyes on the crack. You thought that, if we worked hard, you would respect us. We thought that if we bled for you, you would protect us. We were wrong. The crack waved a claw in the air. Get to the point, human. We know you want more money for your grain. The answer is no. The price is fixed by the Treaty of Soul. The Treaty of Soul, Paul repeated. Yes, that is a good example. Under that treaty, we cannot build ships larger than a destroyer class. We cannot research dark matter engines. We cannot trade with anyone outside the council borders. "It is for your own safety," the Crack said. "You are a young species. You're aggressive. You need rules. We needed rules when we were new. Now those rules are just chains. You keep us weak, so we have to buy your old ships. You keep us poor, so we have to work in your mines." "This is how the galaxy works," said a delegate from the aquatic section. His voice bubbled through a speaker. "The strong lead, the weak serve. Know your place, human." Paul finally smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was cold. It reached his eyes, but it did not make them warm. "You are right," Paul said softly. "The strong lead, and we are done serving." He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small data chip. He placed it on the podium. "This is our formal notice," Paul said. His voice became harder. It sounded like steel hitting stone. "As of this moment, the United Earth government withdraws from the Galactic Council." The silence in the room broke. Gasps and angry clicks filled the air. "You cannot do that," the Crack boomed. He stood up, his massive insect legs unfolding. "You signed a 100-year pact. You cannot leave." "I just did," Paul said. "We are also canceling the defense accord. We are calling back every human soldier currently fighting your wars. They are coming home. Today." "But the pirates," shouted the Vorn representative. "Who will defend our borders?" "Defend them yourselves." "And the trade?" shouted the Glicks. "We have contracts for your wheat and iron." "The contracts are void. We are closing our borders. No council ship is allowed to enter human space. If you cross the line, we will not send a warning. We will fire." The uproar was deafening. The aliens were not just angry. They were scared. They realized suddenly how much they needed the humans. They needed the cheap food. They needed the brave soldiers. They needed the hard workers. The Crack slammed his claw down again. "Order! Order!" He looked down at Paul with fury. "If you walk out that door, Harris, you will be alone. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Without the Council, you will be eaten alive. The Drex, the Void Raiders, the sickness. Who will help you?" Paul picked up his briefcase. He turned his back on the High Counselor. He looked at the massive doors at the far end of the room. They looked very far away. It was a long walk. But Paul did not feel heavy. He felt light. For the first time in 50 years, the weight was gone. He began to walk. His shoes clicked on the hard floor. Click, click, click. "Come back here," the Crack roared. "I order you to stop. You will face sanctions. We will blockade your system. We will starve you." Paul did not stop. He did not look back. He walked past the rows of seats. He saw the faces of the aliens. He saw fear in their eyes. They had pushed the quiet dog too many times, and now the dog had bitten back. He reached the heavy doors. He paused for just 1 second. He thought about his wife back on Earth. He thought about his son who was serving on a frigate near the Vorn border. He was doing this for them. He was doing this so his son wouldn't have to die for a giant bug who didn't know his name. Paul pushed the door open. Bright white light from the hallway spilled into the dim chamber. He stepped through. "You will regret this," the Crack screamed. "Humanity will come crawling back." Paul Harris let the door close. The heavy metal slammed shut with a boom that shook the floor. The sound echoed in the chamber, like a gunshot. Then there was silence. The council was alone. Paul Harris kept walking down the hall, and he did not look back. 3 months had passed since the heavy doors of the grand chamber slammed shut behind Paul Harris. 3 months of silence.
In the beginning, the Galactic Council did not worry. They laughed. High Counselor Thkrok told the other delegates to be patient. He said that humans were emotional creatures. He said they were like children throwing a tantrum. He promised that within a week, the humans would come back. They would be hungry. They would be scared. They would beg to be let back in. So the council waited. They kept the human seat empty in the chamber. They prepared a list of punishments for when the humans returned. They planned to take away more rights. They planned to tax Earth even harder to pay for the insult. But the week passed. Then a month passed. Now it was 3 months. The humans did not come back. Instead, the lights went out. It started with the communication buoys. Usually, the space between stars was full of chatter. Messages flew back and forth about trade, weather, and news. But suddenly, every signal coming from human space stopped. It was like someone had cut a wire. The screens in the council monitoring stations went black. Then, the ships stopped. For decades, human cargo haulers were everywhere. They were the trucks of the galaxy, carrying food, metal, and fuel to every corner of the council's territory. Now, they were gone. The space lanes were empty. The impact hit the council hard. On the planet of the Glicks, the price of bread tripled in 1 day. The Glicks did not grow their own grain. They bought it from Earth. Now, the silos were empty. The Glicks people were angry. They marched in the streets demanding food. The Glicks representatives screamed in the council chamber, demanding that Thkrok do something. On the border of the Vorn sector, the pirates returned. The Vorn had relied on human patrol ships to keep the pirates away. The humans were good fighters. They were brave and stubborn. Without the human patrols, the pirates grew bold. They attacked Vorn mining colonies. They stole ore and kidnapped workers. The Vorn military was too slow and too cowardly to stop them. Thkrok could not ignore the problem anymore. The council was bleeding. They needed to know what was happening inside human space. "Send a diplomatic ship," Thkrok ordered. "Go to the border. Demand to speak to their leaders. Tell them we are angry." A shiny, golden ship was chosen. It belonged to the High Elves of Zentar. It was a beautiful ship, designed to impress. It flew toward the edge of the Sol system, where human territory began. The Zentar captain, a tall alien with violet skin, stood on his bridge. He expected to see human ships waiting for him. He expected them to look tired and broken. Instead, he saw nothing. Space was empty. The stars looked cold. But as the golden ship moved closer to the line on the map that marked human space, his sensors beeped. "Object ahead," the pilot said. It was a buoy. It was a simple, ugly block of dark metal floating in the void. It did not look friendly. As the golden ship got closer, the buoy activated. A red light began to flash. It was a harsh, rhythmic pulse. Then a message played. It was not a request. It was not a greeting. It was a Luke broadcasting in every known language. "Restricted area. Do not enter. Lethal force authorized." The Zentar captain scoffed. "They are bluffing," he said. "They would not dare fire on a diplomatic vessel. Move forward." The golden ship drifted past the buoy. 1 second later, the alarms screamed. The buoy did not fire. Instead, 3 shapes decloaked from the darkness. They were not ships. They were automated defense platforms. They were ugly, covered with thick armor plates and massive gun barrels. They swiveled instantly, locking on to the golden ship. "Locking on!" the pilot shouted, his voice high in panic. "They are charging weapons!" "Reverse," the captain yelled. "Get us out of here." The golden ship spun around, its engines flaring. It retreated back across the line as fast as it could. The defense platforms did not follow. They simply watched, their red eyes glowing in the dark, and then faded back into cloak. The captain sent a message back to the council. He said, "The door is locked, and there are guard dogs." Deep inside the Sol system, far away from the frightened golden ship, General Mary Stone watched the encounter on a screen. Mary stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Mars. She was a woman of 50, with gray hair cut short and a face that showed she did not smile often. She wore a dark blue uniform. It was crisp and clean. "They ran fast," said her lieutenant, a young man named John. "They are not used to being told no," Mary replied. Her voice was calm. "They think we are still their servants." She turned away from the screen. The bridge of the Mars was busy. Officers were working quietly. There was no panic here. There was a sense of purpose. For the first time in a long time, the human military was not taking orders from aliens. They were not dying for someone else's profit. "Status of the fleet?" Mary asked. "Shipyards 3 and 4 report ahead of schedule. The new engines are being installed on the destroyers. The tests look good. They are twice as fast as the old treaty limits allowed." Mary nodded. "Good. And the heavy capital ships?" "The Indomitable is at 90%. The weapon systems are coming online tomorrow." Mary walked to the main viewport. Outside, the view was breathtaking. They were orbiting Mars, but the red planet looked different now. Above the planet, a massive ring of metal was being built. It was a shipyard, but it was bigger than anything the Council had ever allowed. Sparks of light from welding torches twinkled like fireflies. Dozens of ships were in the docks. They were not the small, weak ships humanity used to build. These were monsters. They were thick and blocky, built for war, not for looks. They had massive railguns running down their spines. They had thick armor that could take a hit from a meteor and keep going. For 50 years, the Council had put a limit on human engineering. They said humans were too dangerous to have big ships. They said humans were too aggressive to have advanced weapons. So, humanity had hidden its potential. They had designed these ships in secret, on paper and in simulations, waiting for the day the chains would break. That day was here. "General," John said softly, "do you think they'll attack us when they realize we're not coming back?" Mary looked at the half-finished hull of a dreadnought floating in the dark. "They might," she said. "The Council is proud. They don't like to lose. But if they come here, they won't find the servants they remember." She touched the glass of the viewport. "Let them starve for a while, John. Let them deal with their own pirates. Let them see how cold the galaxy is without us keeping them warm." She turned back to her crew. "Drill the gunnery crews again. I want their aim perfect. If the Council comes, or if something worse comes, we will be ready." The crew nodded. There was no fear in their eyes, only a fierce pride. Out in the void, the automated buoy continued its silent warning. Do not enter. Humanity was not gone. It was just busy. And it was getting stronger by the hour.
The silence at the human border was scary, but the noise at the eastern edge of the galaxy was much worse. For a long time, the Galactic Council had forgotten what real war looked like. They had forgotten because humanity had always been there to fight for them. When pirates attacked, human destroyers chased them away. When rogue asteroids threatened a planet, human engineers moved them. The council lived in a bubble of safety, paid for with human sweat and blood. But now, the bubble popped. The enemy was called the Drex. They did not want trade. They did not want treaties. They were a swarm. Their ships looked like giant, dark purple ticks. They latched onto planets and sucked them dry. They took water, air, and life. They left nothing behind but dust. The Drex had tried to attack the Council 50 years ago. Back then, the human fleet met them at the edge of space. The humans fought like demons. They rammed their ships into the Drex motherships. They boarded the enemy vessels with shotguns and axes. They were brutal, and they won. The Drex ran away, afraid of the crazy softskins. Now, the Drex were back, and they knew the humans were gone. The invasion began in the Pentar system. It was a peaceful place, home to a species of gentle farmers called the Penti. The Penti had no warships. They relied on the Council defense fleet. When the Drex ships appeared in the sky, blocking out the sun, the Penti screamed for help. The Council responded. They sent a fleet of glittering silver ships. These ships were commanded by Admiral Glorb, a large, puffy alien who had never seen a real battle. Admiral Glorb sat in his comfortable chair on the bridge. "Do not worry," he told his crew. "The Drex are savages. Our lasers are superior. We will scare them off." He was wrong. The Drex did not care about superior lasers. They swarmed. Thousands of small fighter craft burst out of the purple motherships. They moved like a cloud of angry wasps. "Target the fighters!" Glorb shouted. "Where are our interceptors?" "We don't have enough," his tactical officer cried. "Usually, the humans provide the fighter screens. We only have heavy cruisers." The Council ships were big and slow. They were built to look impressive, not to fight a swarm. The Drex fighters zipped past the slow laser beams. They landed on the silver hulls. They used cutting lasers to slice through the armor. Panic spread through the Council fleet. Without the humans to hold the line, the formation broke. Captains turned their ships around and tried to run, but the Drex were faster. One by one, the beautiful silver ships exploded into balls of fire. Admiral Glorb watched in horror as his fleet burned. "Retreat!" he screamed. "Fall back to the core worlds!" The Penti planet was left defenseless. The Drex descended. In the grand chamber of the Council, the mood was no longer angry. It was terrified. The giant screen on the wall showed the map of the galaxy. Red dots were spreading like a disease. Every red dot was a system lost to the Drex. High Council the Crack sat on his throne. He looked old. His green skin was pale. His hands shook. "How could this happen?" the Crack whispered. "We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Technology is useless if you don't know how to fight," said the representative of the warrior caste. "We relied on the humans for tactics. We relied on them for grit. Our soldiers are soft. They break when the enemy gets close." "We need soldiers!" the Glix representative shouted. "My people are starving, and now they are being eaten. Do something!" The Crack looked at the empty human seat. It gathered dust in the center of the room. He hated looking at it. It reminded him of his mistake. He had pushed the humans too far. He thought they were weak because they were polite. He did not realize that their politeness was a mask for their strength. "We have no choice," the Crack said. His voice was quiet. The room fell silent to hear him. "We must call them." "The humans?" the Vorn asked. "But they ignored us. They threatened to shoot us." "We will not demand this time. We will beg." He typed a command into his console. A channel was opened. It was a high-priority frequency, reserved for galactic emergencies. It was the only channel the humans might still be listening to. The crack cleared his throat. He tried to sound strong, but he sounded desperate. To the leaders of Earth, this is High Council the Crack. We have a situation. The Drex have returned. They have broken through the eastern line. The Pentar system is gone. The fleet is in retreat. He paused. He waited for a reply. There was only static. We admit, he continued, swallowing his pride, that we may have been unfair. We misjudged the value of your contribution. We are prepared to offer new terms. We will lift the ban on ship sizes. We will pay better prices for your grain. We will give you a permanent seat on the High Council. He looked at the other delegates. They were all nodding. They would give anything to be safe again. Please, the Crack said, we need the Terran Navy. We need your help. If you do not come, billions will die. Respond. The Council waited. 1 minute passed, then 5, then 10. The static did not change. There was no voice from Earth. No face of Paul Harris appeared on the screen. The humans were not listening, or worse, they were listening, and they did not care. They are leaving us to die. The Glick's representative wept. They are cruel, said the Zentar elf. No, said an old general from the back of the room. They are not cruel. They are just doing what we taught them. We taught them that every species looks out for itself. We taught them that contracts are all that matter, and we canceled their contract. The red dots on the map moved closer. They were heading for the Council capital. Far away, on the border of human space, a Drex scout ship drifted too close to the line. The pilot, a drone with a hive mind connection, sensed life ahead. It sensed rich planets. It sensed prey. It moved forward, eager to feed. It crossed the invisible line. Immediately, space lit up. It wasn't a warning shot this time. It was a single, hypervelocity railgun slug. It was a solid bar of tungsten, moving at a fraction of the speed of light. It hit the Drex scout ship and vaporized it instantly. There was no explosion, just a sudden absence of matter. On the other side of the dark, the heavy cruiser Mars sat silently. General Mary Stone watched the debris scatter on her sensors. Target destroyed, the weapons officer said. It was a Drex scout. Did it send a signal? Mary asked. No, ma'am. We got it before it could transmit. Mary nodded. She looked at the map of the galaxy. She could see the distress calls coming from the Council sectors. She could see the screams for help. General, her communes officer said, we are receiving another message from High Council of the Crack. He is offering us a seat on the High Council. Mary laughed. It was a dry, short sound. A seat, she said. They still think we want to sit at their table. They don't understand. We built our own table. Should I reply? The officer asked. No, Mary said. Let them wait. Let them remember what fear feels like. When we move for us, not for them. She looked out at the fleet gathering around Mars. The engines were glowing blue. The fleet was ready. But they would not move yet. They would wait until the Council understood the true price of survival. Maintain the blockade, Mary ordered. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. And if the Drex come here in force, kill them all. The human border remained silent. The Council was alone in the dark, and the monsters were coming for dinner.
The capital planet of the Galactic Council was named Prime. It was supposed to be the safest place in the universe. It had golden towers that touched the clouds. It had parks that floated in the sky. It had a shield grid that was supposed to be unbreakable. Today, Prime was burning. The sky was not blue anymore. It was dark purple, filled with the ships of the Drex. The shield grid was flickering. Every time a Drex laser hit the shield, the ground shook. The golden towers were crumbling. The parks were falling from the sky. High Counselor Thcrack sat in his emergency bunker deep underground. The room was cold. The lights were dim. He was surrounded by his generals and the other representatives. They were not arguing anymore. They were just waiting for the end. "Shield status?" Thcrack asked. His voice was tired. 5%. A technician whispered. "The northern sector has already fallen. The Drex are landing troops." Thcrack closed his eyes. He imagined the Drex soldiers. They were like giant spiders made of metal and meat. They would eat everything. "We have failed," the Zentaur elf said softly. "We ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, and now we die in the dark." "If only we had paid the humans," the Glix representative cried. "If only we had given them a few more credits for their wheat." "It is too late for regrets," the Crack said. "Prepare the final transmission. We will record our history so the next civilization knows who we were." The room shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. The technician screamed, "Shields are down! They are targeting the bunker!" The Crack stood up. He wanted to die standing. He straightened his sash. "It has been an honor serving with you all." But the final explosion did not come. Instead, a siren began to wail. It was a sound Thcrack had never heard before. It was not the alarm for an invasion. It was the alarm for a gravitational anomaly. "Sir!" the technician shouted, staring at his screen. "Something is happening in orbit. The space, it is tearing open." "Is it more Drex?" the Crack asked. "No," the technician said, his eyes wide. "The energy reading is massive. It is off the charts. It is dark matter." On the main screen, the view of the burning sky changed. Above the Drex fleet, space did not just warp, it shattered. A hole ripped open in the fabric of reality. It jaggered and blew, like lightning frozen in time. Out of the hole came a ship. It was not a beautiful ship. It did not have smooth curves or glowing lights. It was a block of gray steel. It was ugly. It was scarred. And it was huge. It was 3 times the size of the Council's biggest battleship. On the side of the hull, painted in white letters, was a name. UEG Indomitable. "It is the humans," Thcrack breathed. "They came." The Indomitable was not alone. Behind it, hundreds of smaller ships poured out of the rift. They looked like angry hornets. They formed a wall between the planet and the Drex. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Paul Harris stood with his hands behind his back. He wore a black uniform now, not the gray suit of a diplomat. He looked at the tactical map. "Admiral," his officer said, "we have entered the combat zone. The Council is hailing us." "Ignore them," Paul said. "We are not here to talk. We are here to clean up the mess." He looked at the Drex motherships. "Open all missile silos. Activate the kinetic drivers. Release the drone swarms." "Sir," his officer hesitated, "the drone swarms? They are banned by the Treaty of Galactic Warfare. They are considered inhumane." Paul looked at the officer. "We are not part of the treaty anymore." Fire. The human fleet did not fight like the Council fleet. The Council ships tried to be elegant. They used lasers that were clean and precise. The humans used physics. From the belly of the Indomitable, massive metal rods were fired. They didn't have explosives. They were just heavy bars of tungsten moving very, very fast. When they hit a Drex mothership, they didn't just make a hole, they shattered the enemy ship completely. The impact was like a nuclear bomb, but without the radiation. Then came the drones. Thousands of small, automated machines flew out of the human carriers. They had no pilots. They were controlled by a computer program designed to kill. They swarmed over the Drex fighters, tearing them apart with saws and point-blank gunfire. It was brutal. It was efficient. It was terrifying. Thkrak watched the screen in silence. He saw the Drex fleet, which had destroyed the Council's defenses in a week, being erased in minutes. The humans were not fighting a battle. They were conducting an extermination. "They are using banned weapons," the Vorn representative whispered. "Kinetic impactors, AI kill swarms, those are illegal." "They do not care," Thkrak said. He felt a chill run down his spine. He realized then that the humans were not saving the Council because they were friends. They were doing it to show what they could do. The Drex tried to fight back. They turned their lasers on the Indomitable. The beams hit the human ship, but the thick armor just absorbed the heat. The human ship didn't even slow down. It plowed through the enemy formation, crushing smaller ships under its hull. "Admiral," the officer on the Indomitable said, "the enemy flagship is trying to jump away. They are retreating." "No," Paul said. "No retreat, no survivors. Lock the gravity anchors. Keep them here." The human ships fired grappling beams. They held the Drex flagship in place. Then the Indomitable turned its main gun, a weapon the size of a skyscraper, towards the enemy. "Fire," Paul ordered. A beam of pure white light connected the two ships. The Drex flagship didn't explode, it just melted. In seconds, it was gone. The sky above Prime began to clear. The purple ships were turned into drifting scrap metal. The drone swarms hunted down the last few stragglers. On the ground, the citizens of Prime came out of their shelters. They looked up at the gray monsters in the sky. They did not cheer. They were too stunned. They had been saved, but the saviors looked scarier than the enemy. High Counselor Thkrak sat in his chair. The red dots on the map were gone. The war was over. It had lasted 6 hours. "Open a channel," Thkrak said. "I need to thank him. I need to ask what he wants." The screen flickered. The face of Paul Harris appeared. He looked older than he did in the council chamber. He had a scar on his cheek. His eyes were hard like flint. "This is High Counselor Thkrak," the alien said, bowing his head low. "Admiral Harris, you have saved us. The galaxy owes you a debt we can never repay. Please land your shuttle. We will prepare a feast. We will sign the papers for your return to the Council." Paul stared at the camera. He did not smile. He did not bow back. "We are not landing," Paul said. "But the celebration? The treaty?" "There is no treaty," Paul said. "We did not come back to join you. We came back to protect our borders. The Drex were getting too close to Earth. We removed the threat." "But you are here," Thkrak pleaded. "Stay, lead us. We will make you the head of the military." "No," Paul said. "We tried to lead. You told us to serve. We tried to be friends. You treated us like employees. Now we are neighbors, and good neighbors stay on their side of the fence." "What are you saying?" Thkrak asked, fear creeping back into his voice.
I am saying that the bill for this rescue is in the mail. We will send you the cost of our ammunition and fuel. You will pay it in full. If you don't, next time, we will let the Drex eat you. Admiral, please! Goodbye, Counselor, Paul said. The screen went black. Above the planet, the Indomitable turned slowly. Its engines flared bright blue. The rift in space tore open again. One by one, the gray ships vanished into the dark, leaving the Council alone in the quiet wreckage of their victory.
The smoke from the burning towers of Prime finally cleared. The fires were put out. The sky turned blue again. But the feeling in the capital city did not go back to normal. The citizens walked through the streets quietly. They looked at the sky with fear. They knew that the Drex were gone, but they also knew that their protectors, the great Galactic Council, had not saved them. The humans had saved them, and the humans had left. High Counselor Thcrack sat in his office. It was a beautiful room at the top of the tallest tower. The window was fixed, but the view was different now. He could see the wreckage of the Council fleet floating in orbit. It was a graveyard of silver ships. He looked at the datapad on his desk. His claw tapped nervously on the glass table. The other representatives were sitting around him. They looked tired and small. "We must issue a statement," the Glix representative said. "We must tell the people that we hired the humans. We must say that this was part of a plan." "Lying will not help," the Zentar elf said. He was staring out the window. "Everyone saw what happened. The humans came, they crushed the enemy, and they spat in our faces." "They did not spit," the Crack said softly. "They just gave us the bill." He slid the datapad across the table. The other aliens looked at it. Their eyes went wide. It was a message from Earth. It was not a diplomatic letter. It did not have fancy words about friendship or destiny. It was an invoice. It was a list of costs. Invoice number 0001. From United Earth Government. To the Galactic Council. Services rendered. Removal of Class A threat, the Drex. Ammunition used, 400,000 tons of tungsten. Fuel consumed, 50,000 units of dark matter. Hazard pay for personnel, high. The total number at the bottom of the screen was so big that the Glix representative fainted. It was more credits than the Council earned in 10 years. "We cannot pay this," the Vorn representative shouted. "It will bankrupt us. We will have to sell entire planets." "Read the fine print," Thcrack said. The Vorn looked closer. At the bottom of the invoice, there was a simple note. Payment is due in 30 days. If payment is not received, the United Earth government will not respond to future distress calls. Good luck. The room was silent. They realized the trap. Humanity was not conquering them with soldiers. Humanity was conquering them with money. If the Council paid, they would be poor and weak for a generation. If they did not pay, they would be defenseless against the next threat. "They are the architects now," Thcrack whispered. "We just live in their building." Days turned into weeks. The Council tried to negotiate. They sent messages to Admiral Paul Harris. They asked for a discount. They asked for a payment plan. The reply was always the same. An automated message said, "Ticket closed. Please pay full amount." The power structure of the galaxy began to crack. The smaller species, the ones who had no voice in the Council,
saw what was happening. They saw that the council was weak and broke. They saw that Earth was strong and rich. One morning, the representative of the Penti, the farmers whose planet was the first to fall, stood up in the grand chamber. "My people are tired. We are tired of paying taxes to a council that cannot protect us. We are tired of growing food for masters who let us burn." "Sit down," Thkrak ordered. "You are out of order." "No," the Penti said. "I am leaving. My government has already contacted Earth. We have offered to sell our grain exclusively to the humans. In exchange, they have promised to put a defense station in our orbit. A human station." Gasps filled the room. This was treason. But before Thkrak could shout, another representative stood up. Then another. The miners, the builders, the workers, all the species that the council had looked down on were standing up. "We are going with them," the miner representative said. "The humans pay better, and they carry bigger guns." One by one, they walked out of the chamber. They walked out the same doors that Paul Harris had used months ago. The grand chamber, which used to hold 300 species, was now half empty. Thkrak watched them go. He felt a terrible weight in his chest. The Galactic Council was not dying in a war. It was dying because it was no longer needed. The humans had not destroyed the Council with weapons. They had simply made it irrelevant. Far away, in the Sol system, Admiral Paul Harris stood on the observation deck of a new space station orbiting Earth. The station was massive. It was a hub of trade and activity. Ships from 50 different species were docked at the piers. They were not council ships. They were Penti grain haulers, Vorn mining barges, and independent traders. They were all coming to Earth. Paul watched the traffic control screen. It was a web of green lines, all leading to Sol. "Admiral," General Mary Stone said, walking up beside him. She handed him a cup of coffee. "The payment from the council just cleared. They emptied their treasury." Paul took the coffee. "Good. Put it into the defense budget. Build more ships." "Do we need more ships?" Mary asked. "The Dreks are gone. The council is broke. Who are we fighting?" "We aren't fighting anyone right now," Paul said. He looked out at the stars. "That's the point. As long as we have the biggest stick, no one will try to hit us. We finally have peace, Mary, but it's peace on our terms." He looked at the alien ships docking peacefully with the human station. For 50 years, humans had begged for a seat at the table. They had wanted to be accepted. They wanted to be liked. Now, they didn't care about being liked. They were respected. And that was worth more than any treaty. The council sent one last message. "Thkrak wants to know if we will ever rejoin. He says the door is always open." Paul smiled. It was a genuine smile this time. "Tell him we are happy where we are. Tell him we don't need a seat in their hall. We have our own house now." Mary nodded and walked away to send the message. Paul Harris stayed by the window. He watched a massive human dreadnought float past the station. It was gray, ugly, and beautiful. It was a symbol of a species that had walked through fire and come out made of steel. The galaxy continued to spin. The stars continued to shine. But the center of the galaxy had shifted. It wasn't on Prime anymore. It was here, in the light of a yellow sun, protected by a people who had learned that the only way to be safe was to be dangerous. Humanity was home, and they were never leaving again.